Good morning, everyone. Mr. Panda Pancake once again. Today we are going to be going over my process for decaling. Start off with, let's go over the tools you'll need. Starting off with, you are going to need decals. They might be from your kit or they might be aftermarket. In my case, all I have here are aftermarket. 2, you are going to need water and a small dish. So I have water here, and I will fill this dish shallow with water to soak my decals in. 3, you are going to need an X-Acto knife that is sharp, which I will do that now. When you change out blades, do make sure to dispose of them properly. All my blades I throw in here. That way they aren't just loose in a trash bag getting ready to stab at someone. Also, for blades, I highly recommend ordering a bunch off of Amazon. Buying actual X-Acto knife blades by the individual packet, I think, is a waste of money. They might be a wee bit sharper, but I don't really think it's worth it. You got your sharp blade to cut your decals. You are going to need tweezers to deliver your decals to where they need to be. You don't need, but it's very recommended to have some form of decal set and decal solvent. I like to use micro set and micro sol. I'll get into these later. A brush for applicating those and Q-tips. So with that taken care of, I'll go into the decals and my thought process on those. I forgot to mention in the previous segment to clear coat your parts before you decal. If you have flat or, God forbid, matte parts when you decal, you will not be able to move them around and they are very likely to show air bubbles underneath. So you need to gloss coat your parts. You could use Mr. Clear, I believe, is a brand a lot of people like to use. I do not have that. It's rather expensive to get in the States sometimes. You can use Rust-Oleum Clear Coat. You can use Model Master Gloss Clear. But what I like to use is Pledge Future Floor Polish. It looks yellow in the bottle, but this is one of the glossiest glosses I've ever gotten. You can spray it straight out of your airbrush with no thinning. It self-levels, so even if you get a thumbprint on it while it's wet, in just about every case, it will level itself out. And it cleans up with water, which is wonderful. So this is what I recommend, and my dad models as well, we've had this bottle since I was 12 years old. And we've only gone through that much of the bottle. It lasts forever, it's relatively cheap, and if you have wood floors, you have some floor polish in the house. So these are the decals I am going to be using for my Gunpla piece, which is the RX 160S Fireland Custom. I don't think I pronounced that right. It does not come with decals. It does not come with stickers. So I'm going to have to take care of that myself. So here I have 3 miscellaneous detail sheets and a sheet dedicated to particular suits. These are great for very specific markings, which particularly I'm going to be snatching the EFF symbol, potentially the 01, to go on my suit. These are very miscellaneous in red and black. Everything is doubled up. These sheets are the same. These are white, but because it's white on a blue background, it's even without the camera, they're difficult to see, but I'll be using these mostly. So my process in my mind, is to make things look like they make sense. For example, on the suit there are these fuel tank and thrusters. And right here is propellant tank. This tank is under high pressure. Use proper safety procedures when refilling and during installation. Depressurization could occur suddenly. Use caution. And I plan on putting one of those on each side of the fuel tank. It would actually be like this. So that would be from there to there on just the outside, because this is on the inside. Along with that, I likely will be putting some of these miscellaneous decals in this area, and likely something on our little flaps. Basically just go through, look them over, and imagine what would fit. You can go as intricate as you wish, because there's all these super tiny ones that you could put just about anywhere for very tiny hatches. But that's up to you. You might want to just have a few simple ones. Like you could probably just have the EFF and the O1 on the shoulders of this suit and it'd be perfectly fine. Also, a lot of these kits do come with numbers. So if you have rocket pods that you want to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And yeah, with that, I will now go into the actual process of decaling my parts and go from there. Okay, for my fuel tanks and thrusters, I have picked out the decals I wish to apply. I have my water ready. This isn't a perfectly flat little dish. It's actually a lid for my Q-tips, but it'll do. So what you want to do is make sure to separate your decals, unless you want to put them all on at once, which if you're feeling bold, feel free to. Otherwise, take things slow, take things easy, have a beer while you're at it. No need to rush. Then you're going to want to dip your decal in, making sure it's entirely submerged in the water. And while that is sitting for a bit, what we're going to do is apply our micro set. There are directions on the back, which I always read each time I use it because I am forgetful, and you want to brush it on. I will say this smells like vinegar. It just might be vinegar, who knows. And then we wait for the decal to soften and slide around on the sheet. You can speed this up by using warm water. However, I don't really bother with that because over a long decaling session, it's going to cool down to room temperature anyways. And going and always getting warm water isn't really worth it to me. Especially because normally when I decal, I'm having a beer and watching some show or another, listening to a podcast. This is a great time to binge a show, let me tell you. Especially if you have a full kit to decal, a master grade. Oh geez, if you decal a real grade, oh my goodness, there's so many little decals. You're going to be here a while, so get comfortable, make sure you're in a nice chair, or just do things one section at a time if you want to spread things out. And since that's taking a while, I'll also plop in our other propellant decal for this one. And by the time we're done here, that one should be ready to put on. Oop. Yep, it is starting to move on the sheet, so we are ready to go. It's really tiny. You can use another pair of tweezers. Otherwise, I just hold onto the paper with the tweezers and hold onto the decal with my finger. And then just throw that away. Don't leave it on your desk because you'll end up plopping it on top of another decal. I've done that before far too many times. And if you have a bit too much water, get you one of your cotton swabs and soak up some of that water by rolling it on over. What's beautiful about decals is you can reposition them for quite a while to make sure everything's perfectly aligned. And unless you have really crappy decals, they're relatively durable as well. And I'm just gonna straighten that out just a little bit. And on the instructions, it recommends brushing on a little on top, particularly over anywhere you have a seam or a curve. You're gonna wanna use this, or if it's really bad, the micro salt. This, however, actually partially dissolves your decal. We'll let that sit for a minute. Set that aside. Come back to this one. And that one is ready to go as well. Wiggle it around until you like where it's at. Absorb any extra water, because any water that's underneath it will make it more likely to move around, which once it's on, you don't want that. Then get our micro sol. Brush. Let that sit for a bit. So what we are going to do is get out our micro sol. And just dab on those areas. Brush a little bit in the direction where we want it to go, but not too long. It'll start dissolving. And on that panel line, we'll dab it on there. But hopefully it will curve down into that panel line, so that once everything is said and done and we clear coat this again, we can then go on a panel line, and the panel line will just go right over the top of the decal. And set those aside, and I would not touch them for at least a couple of hours. You can probably get away with an hour, but it's best to be patient. You get to drag things out. You wait a couple of hours, or even a few hours, you can watch a 12-episode anime in one sitting. And I think all of us like to do that from time to time. And then from there, it's rinse, wash, repeat with each part that you want to do. If there's any particular spots on this kit that I think are deserve a particular call out, I'll record it. But otherwise, I'll get back to you once I have decaled the full kit, and then we will clear coat it. Okay, I am learning along with, find my focus, there it is. I am learning along with you guys, and one thing I've learned is on the decal sheet, the decals look very bright. That's because they are on a white backing. And if you put on something such as a dark blue, they're not nearly as vibrant. In particular, if it will focus. Not particularly. Okay, well, either way, here and on here, there are decals. They're just not quite as bright as I hoped. So on dark plastics, you might want to use the white decals to get more pop. Yeah, I'm no master. I'm learning along with you all. Okay, so I've been at it for about 2 hours, and this is where I'm at. Making decent progress. Not going too terribly crazy with lots and lots and lots of them. But progress is progress. I recommend every couple hours taking a break, resting your eyes. I want eye strain. And also so you don't get burnt out or you're just doing it to do it. If that makes sense. I like to make sure everything is done with a purpose. So I'm going to take a break. And I will come back to this and we'll see what happens next. Okay, well, after a few hours of work, all of the decals are on, at least to my liking. We got them just about everywhere. Some places a little denser than others. And from just about every angle in hindsight, these propellant tank decals are a bit large. They were meant for 1/100 scale after all. But, it doesn't really matter. Like, who's going to judge me for my fictitious flying robot? So, do what you want. Like, as long as it looks good to you, doesn't matter. Yeah, main lesson to have learned was on dark plastic, you might want to use, avoid the glare, you might want to use white to have them pop more. These blend in just a bit too much for my liking. Either white, maybe for a little variety, use some gray or black on your lighter parts. However, I don't really have any of those on hand except for black, though I do have more on pre-order thanks to USA Gundam Store. Please give me a sponsorship. But now I'm going to give a gloss coat everything and I will be ready for panel lining and weathering. And I'll be back with this thing clear coated with some nice B-roll footage. Trying a new thing. We'll see how that goes. Well, it is done. Well, decaling wise. We got things posted just about everywhere. It's nice and glossy. Pardon the sound of scratching in the background. That is one of my cats. Got stuff everywhere from the feet, on the knees, the shins, backpack, the back of the head, even on the collarbone area. It is done. All I have to say, since I'm still learning, thus I'm learning along with you all, is to make sure your initial gloss coat is very glossy. Because if you do not, it's very possible to get air trapped underneath your decals. As such, on the chest, there's a bit of a matte finish to it underneath that I will never be able to get rid of unless I take it off, and well, it's not quite worth it for this piece. But next week I will catch you, not next week, next time I will catch you all with my weathering tutorial for flight types. And with that, thank you very much for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.